There we go. You just make sure the YouTube feed is working.
Yep.
All right, looking good. Everyone in the live chat, thank you for your patience. All right, making sure everything is okay. Just real quick for the people who are kind of coming in right now, without naming any names, just Enabong and I actually a few minutes ago found out that one of our friends in the industry is kind of going through a rough time right now. So we just want to send our send some hearts out to one of our friends. Kind of a family thing going on. So I'll send that clip over to her in a little bit. Okay. All right, here we go. The Weekly is supported by the Oregon State University eCampus. Do you want to take the fast track to your career in computing? You can earn your computer science degree 100% online from Oregon State and tap into unlimited career possibilities in any field. Learn more at ecampus.oregonstate.edu/now. Hello, everybody, and welcome to The Weekly, brought to you by Pocketnow and XDay developers on this day, I'm so bad with days, 5th of April, 2019. All right, so we do want to get on today. We have our special guest that you probably saw last week, Enabong, also known as Thunder E, over at Board at Work. How's it going, Thunder E?
I'm good. Good to be back here again. Hopefully I can help out and chime in.
All right, so I think I have, there you go. Thank you for saying that in the live chat. It's like, I don't see JV. It's like, sorry, I had E clicked on there, so it was just on him. By the way, that podcast we did last week where Jaime came on for the post show, which, by the way, Jaime, if you end up watching this, like, you're always welcome to come on to the post show. The guy always has internet problems when he's in Latin America, so it gets a little rough. But in any case, I accidentally had you clicked on the chat. So when he was showing off the P30, no one saw it.
Wow. Wow.
I'm an awesome host.
Nice one, man. Nice one.
Speaking of being an awesome host, I am Joshua Vergara. What's going on, everybody? And this week, we actually have, I decided to change things up a little bit this week. If you have been following the Pocketnow Daily, based on what Jaime has been reporting every single day, or if you've been following the news all week, it's actually been kind of a slow news week. Not too much has actually been announced compared to last week, of course, but there have been a couple of leaks. We may talk about that a little bit later, but what I do want to talk about today is about probably the biggest story that did come out at the beginning of this week, and it had to do with YouTube. Now, I understand this is a product-centric channel, but it is a channel, and it does live on a platform that we all know and love, and that is YouTube. However, earlier this week, and I want the live chat, everyone in the live chat, I want you all to talk about this so much. Like, this is going to be practically a Q&A session, because I definitely want to have this conversation. It's so interesting to me because, okay, so E, you've been on YouTube for how long?
10 years.
All right, so 10 years for E. Any of my fellow Asian YouTube fans out there, he's been on YouTube as long as Timothy Delgado, so that's awesome. Been on for quite a while. So you've seen YouTube evolve over the last number of years, and in the very beginning, back when they weren't even really monetizing any of the videos, like, what did YouTube look like back then? If you can go down memory lane a little.
Oof, it was a hodgepodge back then. I started off with a website in 2007 called Board at Work, moved on from there. And I remember my buddy Warren Bowman from bw.com got on YouTube earlier. I got on 2009. I didn't really do much with YouTube. I was kind of like, okay, I can upload video, but I didn't have a camera. You know, using your smartphone was just not the way to go at that time.
Oh yeah.
It was such a hot mess. We didn't know in terms of titles or what to do. If anyone can go and search my earliest video, it's crap. It is absolutely crap. Because I was just playing around at work with a smartphone camera, and I was doing some edits with it. Or I think a regular camera. No, it's my regular camera that I got from my cousin. It was a 720p camera. And, you know, nobody knew. I enjoyed those days. It was really the wild, wild west, because I have a total of 5,050 videos, something like that, on YouTube. And if you go through if you don't have to watch the videos, just look at the thumbnails and look at when the thumbnails changed and custom thumbnails. And even when custom thumbnails changed, I remember YouTube was begging influencers to go back, and not begging, but they were telling us a lot of times, like, make sure you change your thumbnails. And already at that time I had 1,000 videos. I was like, I don't have the energy to go back and change the custom thumbnails.
Go through all of them, yeah.
So I have at least a good 1,000, maybe even close to 2,000 videos that just don't have custom thumbnails. And then there was there's the taking SEO seriously. I remember I missed the days where I would do a review on a case, just a case, and that video would do well. I'll get like 50,000 hits, 70,000 hits. Now I didn't even try to do a case review or a video. Like, it's pointless. But then that's the maturity of the network. But I've also seen it grow and specialize from being like you threw any wacky thing on YouTube to it becoming segments, right? We've got tech, we've got lifestyle, vlogging came, vlogging went, vlogging came back. We had fitness people, we've got, different segments in YouTube where, and I found really interesting, I went to an event with Sony for the A6400 a month ago, and most of the people there were all like camera YouTubers. They're not tech, they're camera. And even though camera is tech, which it was really cool to see. And I'm like, I don't know any of these people. The only person I knew there were Justine and Armando. That was it. And so, so I made new friends and I connected, and I'm watching their content. I'm like, ooh, even though this is really close to my segment of YouTube, that's a whole different
other world. YouTube has gotten so huge, and not only just in terms of like the content creation aspect, but also just as the company itself. So the question that I wanted to pose on this podcast has to do with a huge story, a huge deep dive that Bloomberg put out regarding the state of YouTube and why there might actually be a lot of content on YouTube that is considered, for lack of a better term, toxic. Now, you've probably seen, if any of you out there in the live chat or anybody watching right now or listening in the podcast applications might know that YouTube has been in the news a lot over the last even year, maybe 2 years, for a lot of different pieces of content that started to either be demonetized due to guidelines, or they were being flagged by the algorithm because of the content that they provided, because of potentially harmful information, perhaps, or in the most recent case, there was actually a case where YouTube Kids had a lot of content on there that was actually preying on children. Now, we're not going to get the only word that I'll use in that case is Momo, but I don't want to get into the details of the whole thing. But essentially what Bloomberg said is that the executives over at YouTube potentially had ignored. They had ignored, or rather just decided not to address all of these issues because, in paraphrasing their words, essentially the growth of the platform was more important to them than curating the content. Now, the reason why I want to bring this up is because we've heard that word a lot recently, content curation. Content curation was actually a phrase that was used a lot by Apple in their event last week, that humans were going to curate the content. They were going to make sure that the content was actually catered to each user. It was not going to be it was not going to be about an algorithm, an AI-based, software-based algorithm actually trying to control the content, because there are ways of getting around an algorithm, and that's the biggest problem that YouTube has right now. So the question that I wanted to ask, and the reason why I love the fact that E is on here, is because we are YouTubers. We have been on this platform for a long time, and we're not trying to start up a conversation about drama on YouTube. That's not the case here. This is on a system executive level, on a platform that we all use a lot. You want to talk about devices? YouTube is the most viewed network on practically any device, especially mobile. So the question that I have here is that, like, you don't get into any of the crazy content out on YouTube, right? You ever fall down like a YouTube hole?
I mean, once in a while I end up in some of the conspiracy holes.
Oh, really?
Just because, it's weird. Like, I may watch like Joe Rogan, and he will cover a topic, and I might either search that topic. I'm like, okay, let me see about this other guy that he interviewed, and then from there it's like, oh, okay, stop. Like, I'm not trying to go there. And the algorithm has become really aggressive lately. I just notice it from the type of content I watch. So on my feed, I don't see you guys anymore. I do get the notifications for you guys more promptly now. As long as I have the notification bell. So I get yours, I get Saf's, I get David's, I get Pocketnow. I get those notifications quickly. But my feed, I'm a big comic book guy, I'm a big anime guy. If I watch 2 anime videos or watch, I usually do this. I like to watch anime fights. So once in a while, it would dawn on me to go. And lately, I've been watching a lot of either My Hero Academia fights, or I will go back and watch Naruto, Sasuke versus Momoshiki. And after that, I get inundated. I get one more suggestion about like a new anime channel. I'm like, oh, this is cool. This guy's like top 10 anime fights, because usually they always show fights that I don't see. So I'm like, oh, let me check it out. And next minute, it's just anime galore. Like after that, and I'm like, guys, no. Then I stop. And then when it's trailer reaction time, I used to do a lot of trailer reactions. I've stopped. I have another channel where I do for bigger movies. Avengers Endgame trailer reaction came out. I watched one. Sure. I know the people that there are a couple of people I usually go watch the trailer reactions. I'm not subscribed to all of them, but I know their channels, so I'll just type it in. But once I watch one, especially when it comes to movie studio stuff, it's over. It just gives me a bunch of people like, newer YouTubers who I don't know, which is cool, but I'm like, you're pushing this too much. And, if the algorithm can do that, then there are ways for you to game the system. I don't know specifically how, but if the algorithm can, is very aggressive in finding things that quote unquote you like. Mm-hmm. So if you can attach your very insensitive video or whatever kind of video it is through SEO to those kind of videos, then the algorithm will push those in anyway, or at least some of that, especially if your title is clickbaity and not actually to the fact.
Yeah. And that's basically what the whole idea is. There was actually one portion in this story, and I'll have it linked in the description. That way everyone can kind of see. This is a way for us to kind of share with you what kind of life we have as these content creators in the background. And I always like to do these kind of deep dives into these sort of existential questions, because YouTube themselves were actually given a suggestion where you could create a 3rd tier of content. So if content at all on YouTube was being flagged by the algorithm that it is harmful and that it's not something that they want to push, then they're not going to push it. It's not going to be part of the recommended tab. It's not going to be in the suggestions in the sidebar. And it still lives on the platform. You can search for that content and find it if you wanted to, but it wouldn't be part of suggested and it wouldn't be pushed at all. But what the engineer over at YouTube said was actually, while that might be a good suggestion, it wouldn't take long for the people to actually figure out a way to get those videos past that layer of the algorithm. And it's like, that's the crazy part, because like we have networks like YouTube, and later we're going to talk a little bit about social media as well, and the health of viewers and people who are on those platforms. And of course, there's so much stuff to sift through that the only way for a company to even try and control it is through automatic systems. But now we're seeing that, such things can be exploited. I know exactly what you're talking about, where like I would watch content on YouTube. I tend to watch a lot of, there are certain channels I watch, like Game Grumps for gaming, and I watch Just Kidding News. And the autoplay is such a powerful button to have, because once you hit play on any one of those videos, there are so many videos related to that might be coming from that channel that are just all over the suggested side, and it's just going to be an endless array of videos from there. I've actually done that with the Pocketnow Weekly. When I was first coming onto the podcast, I started listening to and watching the Pocketnow Weekly. And when I would turn it on, it would always play yet another video. But if you were to do the same thing here on Pocketnow's channel, what would happen is any video you click on here, it'll always go to a daily. The reason why? There's so many dailies. There are so many of them.
So many dailies, yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have an autoplay of just incessant dailies all day. So I make credit to you for that. But that's the way that the autoplay works in a way. And so the question that I have here, and I do have a few messages in the live chat that are pertinent to this question. And this is a question that I was asking you while we were getting ready for this podcast last night. I was just kind of giving you a bit of a snapshot as to what I wanted to talk about today. as Apple is having as Apple is working to have people actually curate the content in places like Apple Newsstand, Apple News Plus, Apple TV Plus, Apple TV, Apple Channels. There's so many things. um, is the onus on the company itself to curate the content for the safety of its own viewers?
Uh, it's a mixed answer. Apple has an easy task. Whatever they're talking about is easy, and I'll tell you why. They don't have the user base like YouTube or Facebook. One, they may have devices, they don't have a user base. It's two different things. Number two, curating news content is actually easy because they've set up steps that you have to be a legitimate news organization, which is what Facebook needs to do as well. All right. So that also cuts out a lot of people in there, right? And if, unless of course, for whatever reason, the New York Times or the Washington Post decides to go, super crazy and writes crazy editorials. Other than that, that curation for them is an easy process because they did the very good step of saying, you know what, you must be a recognized news organization and must fit this media. And then we also are going to look at your history for you before you join. So looking at the history, they've got 300 magazines. That's actually not hard because they can hire enough people to do that. When it comes to Facebook or YouTube in particular, in our case, it's very difficult because YouTube has how many billion videos, billion hours per minute?
Yeah, exactly.
It is insane the amount of hours, and I've had this discussion when I used to have my own podcast, and Sam and I used to have discussions like this. YouTube fell on the ball because they switched strategies at some point when they tried to make premium YouTube content, and they've gone away from that. YouTube fell when they didn't realize that they needed to take care of their creators. That's what happens when you don't take care of your creators. You tend to have these kind of issues. This is what stems up. While Facebook, on the other hand, has issues with live streaming because they don't have creators. They just have everyone live streaming. So there's no benefit. So if you look at YouTube, for instance, YouTube instituted 10,000, you get revenue share, right?
Yes.
Back in the day, it was much harder to be a YouTube partner. It was just difficult to get in. It wasn't necessarily a 10,000 threshold. It was view count and then also watch time a little bit, but view count, numbers, consistency, a few other things, but it was harder to get to be a partner. So that level is there, but then they haven't created tiers within that level for us to make sense. So the tiers are, when you get 100,000, you get a YouTube silver button.
Yeah.
And then you could wait to 1 million to get to the next one, and then 10 million. That is, I get it. That's too far in between in my mind. And also, I mean, look, just to be honest and clear, I used to have a YouTube partner, partner manager. He left YouTube, and I haven't heard from anyone to say, hey, we're your new partner manager. So I have even though I have a direct access for YouTube, I've got none, really, like zero. They don't help me to do anything to say, even if they always tell us that they can't tell us the algorithm because they don't know, but giving you incentives. Because if you look at it this way, if I am creating videos, even if I'm not doing anything sadistic, I'm going 10,000 is where I need to get in to start earning revenue. And then 100,000 is the first mark where you get the silver button. And then to me, YouTube should start doing a point system or a grading system where the things you do on the platform gain you points, whether you can get assistance in certain things, like gamification of some of these services, especially when you have free content creators. YouTube can sit down and say, look, we provide the service space for you. We've got a ton of servers out there. We pay lots of money. But we give you the content and you're taking 45%. That's how much they take from our content in terms of cuts.
Yeah,
so 45%, that's huge. It's not 55. So we're giving you a lot of money that you can use to actually incentivize us to make better content. I've said this before. If YouTube wanted to go against Hollywood in terms of producing good content, they didn't have to go the YouTube premium right. They needed to spend time with the tiers of influencers. If you develop those tiers, you develop your future movie makers for YouTube.
True, but like how would that take into account virality in terms of a channel that has no record that just happens to have a video that might go viral simply because it does game that system? Um, you
Yeah,
know?
but see what it does is that when you have tiers, you have people in the system. Your algorithm doesn't spend time watching them; it watches the rest.
Mm. I see what you mean.
Because I'm not going to put up anything crazy to lose the money I'm getting from YouTube. I'm
Yeah,
not nuts. You won't do that either.
yeah.
Anyone who's making money, anyone who's, I mean, yes, you're making money, but like right now, it's still a mini Wild West. But when it's a tiered system where you know, like, hey, look, I need to do these things. Hopefully, I can build my channel brand, get in the audience that fits, and then YouTube will recognize, oh, okay, all right, I see this guy's doing all these things. Even if I'm doing it and it's not working, then they can now go, okay, you're doing the right things, but maybe you need to tweak. It's easier for them to now come in and say you need to help. They can help you. But because of that, then the algorithm can spend time looking at any video that spikes up immediately
Mm.
and go, what is this video? From where? Oh, this is not, I mean, like, it's simple. Spike up video. Is this from Board at Work? Okay, all right, tech, good.
Yeah.
Makes sense. As opposed to spike video, this guy has 1,000 subscribers. Wait, what is this? Hey, Google, pause. Even
So
though
in the case, so in the case of people who are actually like consistent creators, especially ones that are making money, it's adding in a certain layer of meritocracy here. So if you have good merit, then like you're good. But we're going to definitely we're gonna let the algorithm, at least not we, but the algorithm will police all other content.
yeah,
I can see where that's coming from. That's actually not a that's not a bad idea actually.
everything is incentivized in this world. Look, you know it from grade school. I mean, look, I don't know how it is here, but when I was growing up, when my even though I say it's not a good thing to do with your kids, but they used to have competition with which kids in the family got the best grades. So
Yeah.
because of that, like I mean, you come from an Asian family, I'm African family, they all do that kind of stuff. So I'm like, you know what? I need to get that Super Nintendo. So yeah, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm gonna bust my butt here. So that's what needs to happen. I'm not saying that people don't do that. I'm saying that sometimes it becomes futile. But when there's something tangible to get,
Sorry.
when something tangible, it makes a lot of sense. Look at Samsung Pay. That's the only service I can think of in terms of a company right now. That the reason I like to use it when it first came out was because Samsung Pay had points. The
Mhm.
points you could use to redeem stuff or enter into their giveaways, and they still have it going on constantly. Now they have cashback. Before they had cashback, they had points. So even if you cared about cashback and you weren't getting cashback, you're like, oh, but with the points, I can get myself a Samsung TV, like a 40-inch for my second bedroom. All right, cool.
And it promotes, like I was saying before, it promotes merit.
Yeah,
It
it promotes merits,
promote,
and it makes you
yeah.
a good user on the system,
Yeah.
so that it's easier to pinpoint the bad users on the system.
Okay. I could see that.
I'm not saying
Just
it's not going to be perfect, but I think that would make a lot of sense.
it's at least a suggestion, and I think the main problem was that the main problem from that Bloomberg article or deep dive was that while suggestions were being made to YouTube, it wasn't as if they were actually enacting any of them. So that's the big problem right now. That's the whole thing right now. And the reason why we're using YouTube is because we're using YouTube as the talking point right now is because that's where the biggest story came from. But we're going to get into the other social media in a second, but I do want to get into the live chat a little bit. Lars Ray Jepsen, I'm sorry, I don't know how someone like YouTube or Facebook can possibly curate content. It's just not possible. People are responsible for their own content, not the platform. So yes, personal responsibility. I do agree with that. That there are those creators who, for the most part, like they don't act up. They're on the platform and they make the platform money, but they also make the platform enjoyable for all of the viewers. There are still a majority, even though everyone might say that everyone and their mothers has a YouTube channel right now, and it does feel that way. I mean, frick, I have 2 channels, right? But there are still, by and large, a majority of people who don't have channels, who are just the viewers, and it's for them. These services are for those people. Us creators, like, we're here because we love doing what we do, but ultimately our content is for the people who would come and view it. So I agree with that there is some personal responsibility involved. But as E here is saying, there has to be a way of incentivizing those people to remain good on the platform, and then they can weed out the rest. But here's another sort of perspective on this. YouTube should be a mess for those who want a mess. Good, bad, educational, and everything. Now, here's the part that I want you to respond to, E, if you can. Once YouTube gets all family friendly, it will die fast. I kind of don't think that's the case here. It's not like you're going on YouTube to watch porn, for example. Like, it's like family friendly can encompass so many different things. You can curse on YouTube, maybe not too much, but you can curse on YouTube, for example. It doesn't have to be so PG or even G. It doesn't have to be G all the time.
No, I think who made that statement?
Oh, that would be Victor.
Victor is stating a fear that execs are probably thinking. That is an executive level fear. The fact that if we curtail it down, because they've made some, the problem is YouTube has always made these harsh things. When Apocalypse happened the first time, they just went and clamped down, and a lot of creators were like, what is going on? Like, you're stifling us, and not understanding that, to me, you have to build your system to match as it grows. The problem is YouTube has not done that. And they've let it expand into a monster that now they created another machine to drive this monster, and the machine is having issues. Like, literally, if you think of it that way, is that YouTube started as this hodgepodge, and then it became something where people had a unified area for you to view content, but now they're having a hard time.
Yeah.
With it. And that's where their problem lies, is that they're having a hard time dealing with content, dealing with the ability to actually craft stuff like this. And that's giving them issues. And I think that's where they need to make changes, is that they need to understand that, look, we have to craft a system that is sensible. We have to connect with, they don't connect with us. So even if I get it, to me, any platform, if you really want people to fully buy in and curtail them, you have to connect. Doesn't matter what it is, whether it's a small business or something as large as YouTube or Facebook or any other social medias, that you have to connect with them so that you will, none of the issues will end. But when you can curtail it, then it's easier for you to deal with a lot of things. Yeah. And I think that's where YouTube is having these issues, that they've not spent time with that. Sorry, I just saw a comment here from Adi Anel says,
I do want to, I'm going to bring that up in a second. But yeah, I do want to switch gears, actually. Like, YouTube has been our main point of contention when it comes to this. We are actually also talking about, just sort of in a microcosm, we're also talking about digital wellness here, because we are also talking about the fact that viewers might be on the platform so much, and that's exactly what they want. They want you to stay on the platform, and that's true not only for YouTube, but for Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and we're going to get into that in a second. We don't have a mid-roll for this week, so we don't really have an opportunity for a break, but this is just a discussion that I found very interesting, and E and I wanted to make sure to have this with all of you so that we can get some of your thoughts as well on it. As far as actual product and device news that happened this week, there wasn't really a whole lot. There were leaks of the Oppo Reno, and I did want to get a hot take from you about that. Did you see this leak of the Oppo Reno?
You mean the Google Pixel 4?
Yeah, that everyone's saying it's going to be that's how the Pixel 4 will be, is that it has a fin.
Yeah, I mean, basically, the Marquez did a video. I almost laughed because I felt like it's like Marquez used that as his basis. The Reno looks pretty good. No bezels. It's got a 10x zoom according to the rumors, and it's got this fin pop out. I mean, the fin pop out is fine. It's a different way of doing.
Was it motorized? I forget. Is it motorized or does it just pop out?
It probably is motorized to make it easier, because if you pop, most users won't pop it. That's the thing. You got to think of it that way. What I also want to add, though, is, have you seen the renders for the Galaxy A90?
No, I haven't. Actually, I should probably look that up.
GSM Marina, check it out. The A90 is from Samsung, zero bezels also. It has a slider that slides out, and the rear camera rotates to the front camera.
Oh, this was just hours ago too.
Yeah, so that's also very interesting that Samsung is going that route with its high-end mid-tier with the A. and I think the A is rumored to have a 700 series processor, which is very close to being an 800. Honestly, it's
Wow.
yeah.
I
So
kind of
they've got a video on there too as well for some of the renders. It's something to just take a look at. But I have to say this, it's quite interesting.
It is for sure. Speaking of interesting, I do want to start having a couple of recurring segments on the show, especially when we have guests on. But we can ask everybody, and literally, this is super like this is a very open form type of question. I want to start a recurring segment here during our mid break of the podcast called "What's in Your Pocket Now." And I want to ask E that, but in this case, it's not about what's in his pocket. It's about what's on your face, and that has to do with the commenter in the live chat that you were laughing at a second ago.
Yes, no, the kernel is not getting old. I know they look a little funky. These are the Focal by North. These are the smart glasses by Focal. It's an interesting process to actually get this pair of glasses. The price dropped from 1,000 to 600. You have to set up an appointment. They have to scan your face. And then after scanning your face, they get you fitted for glasses. Now it's got clip-ons for shades as well. You can get them. You can get a prescription if you need a prescription. It does have this fingering controller right here. So that's how actually you control it. And usually you put it either in your index or your, this finger here. Ring finger. Well, ring finger on the right hand side. And that's how you control it. Then when you go to pay, when they're ready, they say it takes 3 to 4 weeks. It actually took mine 2 weeks. When you get them ready, you have to get an appointment to get it fitted again, because it only has a very small area here on your screen where you can actually see. So if my glasses are a little lower, it's not that clear. I have to actually place them correctly and I can see it. So as I'm looking at the screen, I can see my date and time. I can scroll through, and there are a couple of options.
You're using the ring to scroll through that?
Yeah, I'm using the ring to scroll through. So sometimes, like, I use it on the subway today, and I'm just staring straight ahead, and I'm looking at stuff. It's cool though, because if you just look slightly off, you can't see it at all. If I'm looking down now at the laptop, I'm using my laptop here, I can't see it, but I look up, I can see my messages. I have to set up Uber where I can actually order an Uber directly from here. I can control my Spotify. So they're adding new applications as it goes on. And it's that kind of thing where we just see how well it works. But it's interesting. It's actually easy to use with this because I'm just looking directly at the camera,
it's funny though, that little display, it shows up like to viewers and also to me as I'm looking at you. It shows up as a little like red area. So
you can see the red area, right?
Yeah. So
okay.
It looks like you have pink eye.
I didn't even know that. That's interesting. Thanks for heads up there. So yeah, it's got this. I'm gonna take them off here. Because I don't wear glasses. This is not me.
Yeah, this is such a new look for you.
Yeah. So this is how it looks. This is it here. You've got to the, I don't know if you guys can see that. There's the camera, a projector that basically bounces on the screen.
Oh.
There's an LED here. There's a little speaker that you can get chimes and messages on the side there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I need to get it cleaned up, but it's nice. So battery life is 16 to 18 hours.
Okay.
Some people said some people have gotten it longer. It lasts them like an extra day. It all depends on how much messages you use. I turned off my YouTube notification on there because if not, it would just keep going. The Ring battery life is 3 days for the Ring. It comes in a massive case. I mean, so this is the case.
Oh boy.
Yeah. And then there's like a charging pin in the case. The case also does 3 days on its own. And then your clip-on for your sunglasses are also in here as well.
So, I know a lot of the viewers are probably thinking like, what the heck is the price of that thing?
So the price is $600. If you're getting prescription, it's a little bit more. But since I don't have a prescription, for me, it's $600.
Yeah, I would need that.
Yeah,
I would need a prescription for mine. Yeah, I just use these. I use clip-ons, so like.
So this is it with the clip-ons here.
There you go. And that would actually mask the red area. So,
Yeah, but I think you can only see the red area if you're this close where my camera is, and because you're looking at the camera.
Okay, fair enough.
So my camera is literally here where my finger is. I'm almost touching it.
Okay. So only for us here on the YouTube side. And E does not have pink eye, just letting you know.
No pink eye. No pink eye. No pink eye.
So, as the host, obviously, I'm going to have to be part of this as well, and it's going to be interesting because I have to pick a new item basically every week to show what is in my pocket now.
There's some things you can't talk about either.
Exactly. Though I will admit that one's in my backpack. But what I have here would be the Xiaomi Mi 9, which I've been using as my daily for the last couple of weeks. I did actually just post up a video this week. It's probably the only video that's going up this week.
That video was pretty nice though. The quality was good.
It wasn't bad, but the mics on here are like they're laughably bad in when it comes to recording video. When I have it this close for like voice messages and for calling and all that, it's super clear, but it just doesn't have a good pickup from a distance. So that's actually a bit of a disappointment. So I would say that this is not for vloggers. If you know me from my channel, I talk about how what type of users these phones are for. This may not necessarily be for vloggers because of the audio pickup. It's just not that great. But otherwise, the phone has been pretty fantastic. I have to admit, everyone always has something to say about the Android operating systems on phones, like LG's UI, for example. Everyone has something to say about EMUI. This is MIUI. MIUI, it's gotten so good, honestly. It's fast. It's easy to use. I really enjoy it a lot. MIUI is I could use that on the daily, and I have been recently. So let me just give a shout out to Xiaomi. So far, the Mi 9, pretty good. Review coming out pretty soon. All right. So speaking of the stuff that is on our phones, we do have. I want to spend a little bit of time getting into the other sides of this discussion we're having about content curation, but also about our attention, where our attention is. And obviously, the buzzword that everybody is using these days is called digital wellness. And you see a bunch of phones like the iPhone and Android on a system level now has a digital wellness layer where you can see what apps you're using all the time, where your attention is at all times. In my case, it's usually on YouTube, of course, as we were talking, but I also play a lot of games. So it's like YouTube, games, camera, and then music. Those are the four, I would say. Instagram is actually a fairly distant fifth. And I'm going to ask you where yours might be. You don't have to look right now, but just off the top of your head. But there have been a couple of videos over the last couple of weeks that were on YouTube, obviously. Casey Neistat was talking about how he wanted to uninstall the applications on his smartphone because he is sick of having his attention dedicated to places like Twitter and Instagram. And I don't know if anyone out there saw his video. I mean, millions did. It's Casey Neistat after all. But he talked about how he called it the attention loop. And I thought it was a hilarious way for him to put it, where he wants to pay attention to one story. So he goes on Twitter and he finds the tweet about it. But then he gets curious about all of the follow-ups that are happening on Twitter for it. So he reads all of that. And then he finds himself using even more of his attention, even though he only wanted to have 2 minutes of it taken up by the fact that he wanted to check on one news story. And it's just this endless loop. It's this absolute endless loop of attention being given to Instagram and Twitter. That one was Twitter, but he also said Instagram has the same issue as well. He talked a little bit about the algorithm on Instagram, basically making it so that every post that you see is based upon the accounts that you frequent the most. And that's why the Discover tab in my case is all wrestling. Like it's WrestleMania week. It's WrestleMania weekend this weekend. I've been following WWE, and my Discover tab is literally all just wrestlers and wrestling clips. And and just like on YouTube, you have all of these users who are getting onto the platform and just creating content for Instagram that has to do with wrestling. And these are not even official accounts for wrestlers or wrestling promotions. These are just random, like you've probably seen these, right? With your anime stuff on Instagram. There's like
my Instagram is mine's not anime though. Mine is all martial arts. You know, I put a lot of fitness and Muay Thai stuff on my Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm looking at mine right here. I've got a lot of karate kumites. There's some fitness. individuals here. I wouldn't say it's fitness models. And there's a lot of karate. I follow Jean-Claude Van Damme. I follow uh, what's his name again? Dolph Lundgren. But yeah, I'm looking at some more Taekwondo. There's this kick right there.
But even then, if you look at
my camera just died, did it?
Did it die? Oh, okay. I thought it was just a feed thing, but yeah, I guess it did.
Yeah.
But like if you look at the Discover tab in your Instagram, you'll notice that while all of the content is geared towards the interests that you have told Instagram, hey, show me more of this, and that's really how all these algorithms work. A lot of those accounts are not even actual like official accounts for that kind of stuff.
Oh no, they're not. I mean, that's the thing. It's like
because in your case it would be like Jean-Claude Van Damme fans with underscores.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Jean-Claude, he doesn't post that much. Like when he posts, it comes up on my feed. But my Discovery tab is all the fan stuff from Jean-Claude Van Damme. Oh yeah, this is the kick. Wow, that's too bright. I just realized I was trying to show you an image and
oh nice.
Yeah. So it's stuff like that shows up on my feed.
Yeah. But this is exactly the kind of stuff that sorry, I got messed up my thought there. This is exactly where algorithms can be exploited. And this is, if you want a great example of how algorithms can be exploited, it's right there. Is the fact that you can create an account that just is a little bit in the realm of people's interests, and then it can be anything else. It could be whatever you want it to be. And it could end up being very harmful in a way. Kwame Cole, they were supposed to make Instagram in chronological order, and that never happened. I hate seeing things from 4 days ago. Exactly. The algorithm is trying to show you things that it thinks that it thinks are relevant to you. And nothing is chronological anymore. Like pretty much we should have eye trackers to show how many times we look at the bottom of a post to see how long ago it was. Because like that's like the most common thing I do on Instagram is like, when was that? But so Casey Neistat, we had this discussion yesterday that Casey Neistat was trying to uninstall these applications and to take his attention back. But you were telling me yesterday that you think that that's actually a half measure.
Okay. I mean, it's a bit of a half measure. I think it's one of those things where, like these discussions are the discussions I've had for a while. I mean, when I used to have my podcast, we used to talk about this a lot. And like Sam is one of those people where he is not on Facebook that much anymore. And he didn't, and I think that's even the better approach. If you're going to cut off a piece of social media, you might cut it off, sure, but you have to remind yourself, why did you get there in the first place? Right? What's the main reason there? And then you decide how you want to use it. So once I started spending time as an influencer, I realized how I was going to use social media, and I decided anything I put up there is what I'm sharing to everybody. Doesn't matter, even if Facebook sells it or whatever, right? That's just, I've accepted that fact. And I think that's 1/2 or 1/4 of what everybody needs to understand. Even if you're not an influencer, is that whatever you put up on social media is not yours anymore. It's for the world and the company itself. It's freemium, right? Then there's also the aspect of you can't dwell on those aspects. So there's one thing that we used to do, and we still kind of do, is that Sam will send me a story he uses Reddit a lot. So he would send it from Reddit or whatever source. And I used to send stories from Facebook. Like I would see it on Facebook and then I'll read and send it. But what we did subconsciously, initially, we would share stories and I'll be like, I don't think that's correct. I saw the same article from here, here, and here, and this is missing or this is not there. And we used to cross-check ourselves and say, hey, look, that's old. I don't think that's correct news. I don't think it's factual, because anytime we see something, like now, anytime we see something, I look for 4 sources. I just have to look for 4 sources. It's annoying as hell, but that's just the way it is. Because forget social media, it's also it's something that has been happening over time. It's not social media that caused this. Social media is the access. This is something we've been doing constantly. Remember how I spoke to you about what we're experiencing is what celebrities have experienced forever. It's just now the average man is experiencing it. What I mean here is that your celebrities have people complain about social media. It's like, I'm getting inundated with a lot of information. People are bugging me, all this kind of stuff. As a celebrity, they've been doing this for a long time where people bug them, fans bug them, paparazzi bug them. They're always the center of attention. So when we get some fame on social, you don't have to be an influencer to be actually famous on social media. You could just have a very rabid following because of something you do, right?
Yeah.
And you become, and it doesn't have to be super big. You could have 45,000 and people are like on Instagram, people are like, oh my God, man, I love whenever he posts pictures of this and blah, 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 and this and that. We're experiencing some of that. And now we realize that
we're not equipped for it.
That experience is not built for the mass audience.
Yeah.
That experience, it was always a certain set of people, because we know whenever you heard a story of a celebrity getting pissed and like, I don't want to sign your autograph, and pushes people away and stuff, you're like, oh, how ungrateful that person is. Like, you know, we're the ones who helped you get to this position. Now you're in that position and you're complaining about Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, or the one thing I would say everybody should do or can do is you step away, you spend less, or you do less on that platform. Because when you come back, it also feels fresh. You're like, oh, what am I missing? Sometimes it's not that fresh. Sometimes it is. Facebook.
I'm trying to remember a study that was done where they added a timer. They gave a time limit to I want to say teenagers or preteens about how long they could be on any one application. And obviously this had to do with Twitter, Instagram, and social media and whatnot. It incited anger so much from them because they wanted to stay on those platforms. And like going back to the whole idea of, or is the onus on the company? Like their number one goal is to keep you on their platform. And so yes, there is personal responsibility involved. But I just wanted to bring up that I remember reading that I got to try to find that study again, but it was one of those like small sample size stories. But like basically it showed that they were upset anytime the timer went off and they couldn't use that app anymore. And instead of like moving on to something that was more productive, they were just upset that they couldn't use Facebook anymore.
Who was in the study? Teens?
I think it was teens. I want to say it was like definitely younger folk.
Look, that's what parenting is all about. I'm not a parent, but I know very well how my mom like curtailed me from playing my Super Nintendo. It's the same thing. I mean, I didn't play during school year. I'm not saying you have to stop kids not using social media during school year, but you have to provide that sense of balance in their heads. I mean, I have younger cousins, and I don't curtail their social media because I know their parents don't, but they've spent time teaching them that, look, you can't spend time here because you still have to do certain things. You have to make money. You have to be able to get a career. You have to be able to grow as an individual. And those are the kind of things that are missing. And again, that's personal responsibility, whether it's from the parents, whether it's the individual or child, whatever the case may be. And I think understanding that aspect of social media, that no one is your friend. Let's just be honest. Everyone who follows me, everyone who follows Pocketnow, everyone who follows Joshua, you guys are not my friends, and I'm not your friend, and not in a bad way. The fact that we don't know anything about each other to actually come into that true experience of what a friend is. We are at the very most acquaintances that have a certain interest at hand, and we work on that interest. Now, once people realize that, they know, okay, fine, yeah, there are people that can connect you. You can build a friendship online. There's nothing wrong with that. It's very possible, but we need to understand that there is that gap. And yes, there's also responsibility on the companies as well. Like they need to understand how their audience is, what to curtail. We talked about Facebook and live streaming, and the fact that, I believe that that's something that they should only hand to creators, and they should have added a level of meritocracy also. Facebook also wasted a huge opportunity on not paying their users, but actually giving people on Facebook points. You report something erroneous, you get points. If you see, when Facebook went public, soon after, they should have had a point system on Facebook where, yeah, you can enjoy Facebook the way it is, but if you help the platform, you get points which you can cash in for different things. Hey, maybe an Oculus headset, maybe their camera system, maybe a game. A lot of Facebook games. Like then your dedicated time there makes a lot of sense. Again, you gamify it where it makes sense for the user. And now when you're using their content and selling their content, they also know that they've benefited from this.
Yeah, for sure.
At some point.
So, I mean, everyone in the live chat is talking about those headphones behind you, but I wanted to ask the live chat as we wind down the last 5 to 10 minutes of this podcast. I just want to see, I want to do a temperature check with all of our viewers and our listeners. Also, let us know at hashtag PN Weekly. How much do you curate your own attention? How much do you curate your own social media use? I mean, I know for myself, I only really find myself on uh, social media platforms a whole lot really at night. Honestly, it's basically after everything else is done. But the problem that I have there is that since I'm scrolling through Instagram and watching IG stories incessantly, it keeps me from sleeping. So that's my number one problem with it. But I wouldn't really say like I said in the YouTube section, as far as like harmful content on all these platforms, I don't engage in any of that stuff. That's why it's hard for me to actually talk about it at length because I don't actually watch any of it. I don't actually engage in it whatsoever. I fell on one prank channel on April Fool's Day because of Twitter, and I want to unsee that. I want those 5 minutes back from my life because I can't believe I actually watched what I watched. I don't even want to talk about it, but that's what I mean. It's like it doesn't do anything for me, but apparently those videos do definitely go viral. They have millions of views, and that's the problem we have here is whether or not these companies should be curating the content for the safety of their viewers. So I guess as we wind down this podcast, I guess I would ask you, what tips would you have for people to sort of make themselves even safer on the internet? Like we could talk about digital wellness, but also talking about content on the internet, what they can do to ensure that they're not either using up all their attention or putting their attention into things that might be ultimately harmful.
Go out.
I mean, I have to attest to this. This is true. I actually have spent more time in this office and in my home over the last 2 weeks working. Granted, but that also means that I'm susceptible to being on YouTube for hours and hours on end, consuming content rather than creating it. That's for people like me and UE. That's the big thing. If we're consuming more than we're creating, we have a big problem.
Oh yeah, we do. I mean, there are bouts where I've consumed like a lot of entertainment, anime, comic book movie stuff, and I'm like, okay, I need to make my video, man. Oh God, but sometimes it's just good to step out. It's good to explore the idea of or listen. I had a good period last week where I finished one of the audiobooks I was listening to, which is the 5th book in the Expanse series. If you want a book series to read, go read that. It's absolutely amazing. And it's been a while since I've done that. I sat down on my couch here. I've got a big TV. I have shows I have to watch. I spent 2 hours listening, just listening. And it was a really good experience and it let me step out away from what I need to. Sometimes you need to, the thing about any form of entertainment is that too much, again, the age-old saying, too much of any good thing is bad. Mm-hmm. So find other avenues, whether it's go out, the weather's getting better, it's time to head to the beach or the park, or you play sports, you play some basketball, some football, soccer, whatever it is, hang out with friends, get to know your neighborhood. It may sound silly, there are things that happen. Find out what happens around you. If you're going to use
neighborhood, I love that one. Like, when's the last time you actually knew your neighbors? Like,
I mean, I do actually in my building. My neighbors are actually.
Oh, in your building, yeah, I bet. Yeah, especially with the place that you have. But like, I know me, like living in a home with my family. I don't know anybody on my street. Like,
yeah, but I mean, or at least get to know your neighborhood, right? Find out what's happening in the city, right? Events, some festivals. The thing that's happening now in our culture is that. It's something that's always been happening in New York. It's spiraled around the country and it happens on the West Coast, is that a lot of cities are trying to do things to get people, so there's a lot of festivals. This might be like a craft beer festival. There might be, a convention. There might be a small anime comic book convention that, it's like $20 for a ticket. You go check it out. Lo and behold, you see a TV actor from a show. You're like, oh, wow, I didn't know you guys came here. Like I thought you only went to the big cities, but they do all those conventions. So there's a lot to see and do. And for some places it's smaller than the others, but just try and do something else. Because when you do that, then you realize that, and then the things that when you go back and check your timeline and you now speed through, you're like, oh shit, I'm already back to where I was, and it was only like 10 things.
I have to say that is a depressing thing. Like whenever I'm on Instagram and I see a photo I've seen already, I'm like, what am I doing here? Like I've literally gone through everything everyone else has done.
Yeah.
Since the last time I've been here. From our live chat, a few people talking. Peter Hayden, I think it's important to not get too distracted with some of the other content and be sure to step away if you ever feel like you end up spending time watching videos, just as I described. There was also a lot of people saying, go ahead and get active. We did get a $1 super chat from Richard S. I wish you added like a quick comment or a question on there, so that way we could have like talked about that a little, but that's okay. Justin Tech says, I spend more time on YouTube than Instagram than Facebook. I'm kind of the same, except I don't spend time on Facebook. The other reason why I wanted to bring this up, and if Jaime was here, he would tell you, I don't know to what extent, but he's not on Facebook anymore. Like, I don't know if he completely deleted his account or anything like that, but he's definitely not on Facebook anymore. If E or I tried to talk to him on Facebook Messenger, we would never get a response.
Let me actually see if he's on Facebook.
Yeah, he might still have his account, but what I'm saying is he definitely does not engage anymore on Facebook.
Yeah, his account is still here.
Oh, okay. So he doesn't engage is the thing, and he wanted to get off it.
Yeah, his account is here. His last cross post was from Instagram.
Oh, so it's just auto posting from there.
Yeah, he's here.
Okay. To add to what you were saying a second ago, E, before we head out of here, to anybody out there who might be going out to, like, there were a few people in the live chat also, like, go date, go exercise, go to events, all that stuff, just like E was saying. There are those people who would be like, yeah, I gotta go there because I'll get a great IG photo out of it. But like, here's the layer that I'll add to it. If you're going to do other things other than be on your social media platforms, especially if you're a creator, this is something that I try to instill in my entire life. I used to be a daily vlogger, so I know what it's like to try and do stuff just so you have content. It sucks to live that way. So what I would say is, go to something or do something because you enjoy it. The content that you could get out of it comes second. Like, you just happen to be at a thing you're enjoying. That's when you take the photo. You don't go there to take the photo, because we've actually had that problem here. You might have seen news stories, E, about how we have a super bloom right now because it's springtime, but they actually banned people from going to this large hilly area where all of these flowers were blooming because a lot of flowers got trampled because people were trying to take pictures, like cool pictures, off the path and in the flowers, and they were just walking, stepping all over it. It was terrible.
Wow. Okay.
But yeah. Okay, let's see. Anything else in there? Okay, well, okay. I guess on this note, we're going to go ahead and end it on here. Eric Pajari says, I'm half drunk already. All right, well, on that note, I hope everyone's enjoying their Fridays. I'm actually going to be seeing you in the flesh tomorrow. So we're going to be hanging out for the next few days.
Yeah. We've got a video coming up, at least a joint video in a sense.
Mm-hmm.
That we'll be doing together. Sorry. So stay tuned for that. That would be cool.
Yeah. All right, cool. Well, we're going to go ahead and call it on that one. Let me go ahead and get into our outro. That's it for the weekly. Our theme music is Bloom by Minerva, courtesy of a royalty-free license with Argo Fox. You can learn more in this episode's description. Follow our crew on Twitter. E, why don't you go ahead and let the people know where they can find you? Yes,
you can find me on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, all under Board at Work, spelled with 2 O's, and also on our website, boardatwork.com.
All right, there we go. For this chill-ish podcast where we're just talking a little bit existentially about digital wellness, social media, and YouTube at large, because that was the biggest story that I saw this past week. But in any case, I will be back next week. I am, of course, your host, Joshua Vergara. I am found at JV Tech Tea. You know me. I am JV. I love tech, and I love to drink me some tea. I don't have any on me right now, actually. But in any case, Pocketnow is at Pocketnow on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube in English and Espanol, where you can find more news, on the Pocketnow Daily and Pocketnow Audio every weekday. Catch up on what the weekly is talking about at pocketnow.com/podcast. Also, make sure you make your voices heard by emailing us, podcast@pocketnow.com. We'd certainly appreciate your feedback through reviews and ratings on Google, Apple, Spotify, Overcast, and wherever you happen to be streaming us, because without you, we wouldn't have been able to make this show for your eyes and ears for now 7 years straight. We're actually going to be seeing you out of San Francisco next week. Can't talk about why just yet, but a lot of us are going to be getting together. So I don't know, maybe we'll have a 3 or 4 person panel for next week's show, but we're all going to be in the same place. You can look forward to one of those live episodes. And I'm going to ask them what is in their pocket now. But with that said, I'm going to go ahead and call on this one. Thank you so much again for watching, and we will see you next week.